The Council's armada was gone. Once hailed as the greatest force in galactic history, it now drifted as a silent graveyard, broken ships scattered across the void. The galaxy, watching from every corner, realized the truth. The age of the Council had ended, but humanity was not finished. In the war room aboard the Erebus, Admiral Kellen's voice carried like iron. "We end this now. No more councils. No more chains. We strike at their heart." His order was simple and merciless. The fleets would move on the Council's homeworld. The journey was swift, fueled by vengeance. Across human space, every world sent ships, veterans who had lost children, farmers who had lost homes, engineers who had seen their colonies burn. Each of them volunteered. Humanity did not march as conquerors. They marched as survivors, united by fury. The Council's homeworld was a jewel of the galaxy, a world of glittering towers and endless power. For millennia, alien rulers had governed from its shining citadels, untouchable, eternal. As the first human fleets appeared in orbit, panic swept the planet. Sirens wailed. Evacuation ships crammed with leaders and nobles tried to escape, only to be cut down by human guns. There would be no escape. The final battle began. Human dreadnoughts unleashed storms of fire, tearing through planetary defenses. Alien fleets, shattered and broken, attempted a last stand. They fought with desperation, but against humanity's wrath, desperation was not enough. Erlen was unleashed once more, ripping open the skies above the Council's seat of power. On the surface, alien rulers stared in disbelief as their towers crumbled, their palaces burned, their legacies shattered. For the first time, they understood what humanity had become: not prey, not servants, but the storm itself. And then, silence. The Council was gone. Their homeworld reduced to ash and ruin. In that silence, humanity stood victorious, but not as destroyers. Kellen's words spread across the stars. "We do not seek their slavery. We do not seek their chains. We seek dominion where no one dares to trample humanity again." The oppressed listened, and they rose. Species that had cowered for centuries now saw hope in mankind's fury. One by one, they pledged loyalty not to the Council, but to humanity. Where fear had ruled, a new order was born. The galaxy trembled, but this time, it was not from terror alone. It was from change. Humanity, once mocked as fragile, now stood as the dominion of the stars, not because they sought conquest, but because they had proven the one truth the galaxy could never forget: patience has limits. Closing line. And from that day forward, every star carried the same whispered memory: the day humanity lost its patience, and the galaxy was remade. The fall of Caraxes had changed everything. The galaxy was no longer laughing at humanity. They were trembling. Empires that had mocked mankind now reinforced their borders, whispering prayers to gods they had long forgotten. But in the chambers of the Galactic Council, fear did not bring humility. It brought desperation. For centuries, the Council had ruled with an iron grip. They dictated trade, controlled armies, and bent entire civilizations to their will. But now, a single species had humiliated them before all. Humanity's victory had become a beacon to the oppressed. Rebellions flared, slaves rose in secret, and Council authority began to crumble. Something had to be done. In a sealed chamber, the Council gathered in shadow. Voices echoed off marble walls as ancient rulers argued. Some demanded negotiation with Earth, offering peace before things escalated further. But others, older, prouder, spoke with venom. "Peace." One chancellor spat. "They will never stop. If humanity can burn Caraxes, they can burn us all. The only answer is extermination." The vote was cast. And so, in the dark, the Council chose betrayal. They would unite their scattered fleets, armies that had fought each other for centuries, into one colossal armada. Not to fight rebels, not to defend colonies, but to crush Earth. The humans had lit a fire. Now the Council would drown it in blood. Across the galaxy, orders spread in secret. Warships were recalled from distant borders. Generals were summoned. Vast reserves of weapons were opened. On a dozen worlds, titanic shipyards roared to life, building vessels larger than anything humanity had ever seen. But while the Council prepared for war, they wore masks of deception. Their ambassadors continued to smile in public halls. They spoke of peace, of restoring order, even as they sharpened the knives behind their backs. Humanity, however, was not blind. Spies intercepted transmissions, whispers of movements too large to ignore. Strange signals rippled across the stars. Fleets converging where none had reason to gather. In the high command chamber on Earth, tension thickened. Admiral Kalen studied the reports with cold eyes. "They are uniting," he said. "Species that hated each other for centuries now move as one, not for peace. For us." The room fell silent. Leaders exchanged grim looks. The betrayal was clear. The Council would not rest until humanity was ashes scattered across the void. Yet, there was no fear in Kellen's voice as he gave his order. "Then let them come. They will find we are ready." Humanity's preparations, hidden for years, were far from complete. But their resolve was stronger than any fleet. The Council believed they were moving to crush a fragile species, In truth, they were marching toward a storm cliffhanger ending on the edge of council space. The first images arrived, thousands of warships assembling in a formation so vast it blotted out the stars. The greatest armada in galactic history was rising. The Council's armada was the largest gathering of warships the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of cruisers, carriers, and dreadnoughts stretched across the void. Their combined firepower enough to scorch entire sectors. To the alien rulers, it was destiny, the final storm that would wipe out humanity before their rebellion could spread. But destiny has a way of turning. From the watchtowers of Earth's hidden stations, humanity watched the gathering darkness with cold patience. They knew this day would come. They had always known. And so, buried deep within secret facilities, far from alien eyes, they had built something terrible. It was not a ship. It was not a weapon of war in the traditional sense. It was something older, something darker, technology born from desperation and perfected in silence. The project had a name spoken only in whispers: Erupted. Erupted was a weapon designed not to win battles but to end wars. It harnessed energies drawn from dying stars, weaponized gravity itself, and compressed it into an unstoppable cascade of destruction. For years, scientists had sworn it could never be controlled. But now, with humanity pushed to the brink, control no longer mattered. In the high command chamber, Admiral Kalen stood before the assembled leaders. The council thinks they face fleets and guns. They are wrong. They face Erupted. His voice carried no triumph, only grim certainty. When the council's armada entered human space, they came with arrogance. Fleets stretched in tight formation, confident in their numbers. Their commanders broadcast ultimatums of surrender. Humanity answered with silence then. Erupted awoke. The stars themselves seemed to flicker. Space twisted, as if reality were being torn open. A sphere of pure energy bloomed in the darkness, growing brighter until even shielded senses went blind. The alien armada froze, confused by what they were seeing, and then, the weapon spoke. A wave of gravitational fire erupted outward. Entire fleets buckled, their hulls collapsing as if crushed by invisible fists. Ships the size of cities were torn apart in seconds. Shields meant to withstand supernova shattered like glass in a single strike. Half the armada was gone. Panic erupted among the survivors. Commanders screamed overcomes, begging for retreat, for answers, for mercy. But there was none. Humanity had unleashed the storm they had been forging in silence. And the galaxy now understood the price of their betrayal. From the bridge of the Erebus, Kalen gave the final order. They'll drive them into the fire. Leave no doubt. The surviving human fleets surged forward, weapons blazing, cutting through what remained of the once mighty armada. Alien dreadnoughts fled, colliding in their desperation to escape. The Council's great hope had become a graveyard of fire, cliffhanger ending. As the last echoes of battle faded, silence returned. The Erupted dimmed, its power spent for now. Kalen turned to his officers. His voice was cold, certain. Next, we burn their homeworld. The alien stronghold of Caraxes had stood for 1,000 years. Its planetary shields were legendary, its orbital defenses unmatched. Dozens of fleets had tried to breach it in past wars, and all had failed. To the Council, Caraxes was an untouchable symbol of their eternal rule. That illusion ended the moment humanity arrived. From the blackness of space, the first human fleet emerged. Sleek, obsidian hulls glistened like knives. No grand speeches were broadcast. No warnings were given. The only sound in the comms was silence, cold, deliberate silence. The alien commanders laughed when the first human warships appeared. To them, it was arrogance, a mere 100 ships. Against us, they ordered the fleet destroyed. Hundreds of alien cruisers ignited their engines, weapons locking on target. But then, humanity showed them what silence had built. The human ships moved with impossible precision. Their weapons cut through shields as if they were glass. Rail cannons thundered, firing projectiles faster than light itself. Entire squadrons of alien ships disintegrated before they could return fire. Within minutes, the laughter turned to panic. KHA or axis trembled as orbital platforms crumbled. Alien soldiers screamed as bombardments ripped through defenses once believed impenetrable. The humans did not fight like amateurs or desperate survivors. They fought like predators unleashed after centuries of restraint. There was no hesitation, no mercy. Every strike was calculated. Every maneuver spoke of years of hidden training, years of unrelenting preparation. From the command ship Erebus, Admiral Kalen watched the battlefield unfold. His eyes were cold, his voice steady. Target their shield generators. Break them. Moments later, a wave of experimental plasma warheads struck the surface. The mighty planetary shields that had resisted millennia of assaults, collapsed in a flash of blinding light. For the first time in history, Caraxes was vulnerable. Panic erupted across the alien world. Civilian transports scrambled to flee. The Council's forces pleaded for reinforcements, but no help came. No one expected humanity to strike so boldly, so suddenly. The aliens had believed humanity weak. Now, they watched in horror as that same weak species tore apart their fortress world and ours. And still, Humanity remained silent. No demands, no ultimatums, only destruction dot in the council chambers. Chaos spread. Leaders shouted over one another. Some called for immediate retaliation. Others whispered in fear, realizing too late that humanity had become something they could not contain. Back at Caraxus, the final blow fell. The human fleet unleashed a storm of kinetic strikes, flattening military installations, shattering orbital yards, and burning command centers to ash. Then, just as suddenly as they had come, the human ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving only ruins behind. The galaxy gasped. A world once thought invincible had fallen in a single night. Humanity had not only struck, they had humiliated the council. Cliffhanger ending. In the silence that followed, a single alien transmission echoed across the stars. If they rise, none of us will survive. Caraxus had fallen. A fortress world that had stood for 1,000 years now lay in ruins. Its shields shattered, its fleets burned to ash. For the first time in living memory, the Galactic Council had been humiliated before the eyes of the entire galaxy. The news spread faster than light. On distant trading hubs, merchants whispered rumors in darkened corridors. In the slums of alien worlds, children repeated the story in frightened voices. Even the proudest empires felt a shadow creep into their hearts. The galaxy trembled. Across the stars, leaders of alien species gathered in emergency chambers. The arrogance that once colored their speeches was gone. Now they spoke in hushed tones, fearful of even saying the word humans. The message was clear. A species once dismissed as fragile had risen in wrath, and nothing had stopped them. Some demanded swift retaliation. "We must crush them before they grow stronger," shouted one emperor, his scaled fists striking the table. Yet others shook their heads in fear. "You saw what they did to Caraxus. What if the same fate awaits our worlds?" Meanwhile, something unexpected began to stir. Species long enslaved or oppressed by the council looked to humanity with awe. They had seen a people who had suffered for centuries, and then struck back with unimaginable fury. To them, humanity was not a threat. Humanity was hope. On the mining colonies of the Olan, slaves whispered in secret gatherings, "If the humans fight for themselves, maybe they will fight for us." On the border worlds of the Kethari, rebel leaders raised their banners higher, convinced that mankind's rise would spark a new age of defiance. But to the council, it was chaos. Their grip on the galaxy loosened, their unity fractured. Fear turned allies into rivals, each wondering who humanity would strike next. Back on Earth, the High Command understood this perfectly. They had not only won a battle, they had reshaped the balance of power. Humanity's leaders debated their next steps. Should they liberate the oppressed and gain allies? Or should they crush the council entirely, leaving no rival alive? In the war room, Admiral Kalen spoke calmly. "We do not need to conquer them all at once. Let fear do half the work for us." And fear spread indeed. Civilizations fortified their borders. Worlds once proud now stared nervously into the void, wondering if the next fleet to appear would be human. But the council was not yet defeated. In secret, its leaders formed a plan. They would set aside centuries of rivalry, uniting their fleets against this new threat. Humanity had struck first blood, but the war was only beginning. Cliffhanger ending. In a hidden chamber, the council's high chancellor whispered a single vow: "We will unite. We will crush them, before the humans crush us all." The galaxy had always underestimated humanity. For centuries, humans were tolerated as the later rivals to the stars. They were smaller in number, weaker in technology, and too young to command respect among the ancient empires. To the great alien civilizations, humanity was nothing more than a curious species that had learned to crawl into space. The Galactic Council granted them little voice. When humans spoke, most species laughed. When humans pleaded for fairness, the aliens ignored them. And when humans suffered attacks on their colonies, the Council called it unfortunate accidents. But still, humanity waited. They endured insults, broken treaties, and the quiet suffering of their people. Their leaders believed patience would earn respect. Their fleets remained defensive. Their diplomats begged for peace, and their colonies rebuilt again and again after raids. Humanity hoped the galaxy would one day see them as equals. That hope died on a single night, on the colony of Elysia, a peaceful world of forests and oceans. An alien strike force descended without warning. Homes burned, families were slaughtered, and thousands of innocents were dragged from their homes. The aliens claimed it was punishment for humanity's growing independence. The galaxy watched. The council said nothing, and humanity bled. Among the prisoners was a small child, barely 10 years old, who stood trembling before alien overlords. His crime was being human. In front of millions, the child was executed not for war, not for rebellion, but as a message: humanity must remember its place. The broadcast spread across human space. Billions watched in horror, rage building in every heart. Fathers clenched fists. Mothers wept. Soldiers stared in silence, their anger sharp as steel. And far above Earth, in the High Command chamber, humanity's leaders sat in silence. For long moments no one spoke. The weight of centuries of humiliation pressed down on them. The patience that had once been their shield now felt like chains around their throats. Finally, the commander of Earth rose. His voice was quiet, but it carried the fury of an entire species. Enough. The word echoed in the chamber. Generals straightened in their seats. Admirals leaned forward. For the first time in generations, no one spoke of peace. No one spoke of restraint. They spoke only of vengeance. Humanity's patience had ended. Across Earth's hidden shipyards, the forges awoke. Factories thundered, assembling weapons that had been designed but never unleashed. Old fleets were recalled, their hulls reforged with new steel. Scientists opened projects once considered too dangerous, too destructive, and on every colony, young and old alike, whispered the same words: never again. The galaxy had mistaken silence for weakness. Now it would learn the truth. For the first time in history, humanity did not beg, did not plead. They prepared for war, and the stars themselves would tremble at what was coming. Cliffhanger ending, the council chamber lights dimmed. A single command echoing through the dark: awaken the fleets. Humanity rises. The galaxy believed humanity was broken. After the massacre on Elysia, the council expected humans to retreat further into silence, to lick their wounds and accept their place among the stars. Two alien rulers. Earth was a defeated species, a child, scolded by its elders. But silence can mean many things. Sometimes silence is fear. Sometimes silence is grief. And sometimes silence is preparation. In the months that followed Elysia, humanity disappeared from galactic life. Their representatives stopped attending council sessions. Their colonies grew quiet, transmitting only basic reports. Human trade slowed to a trickle. At first, the empires laughed. They called humanity broken toys and moved on. But beneath the surface, something was shifting. In the hidden shipyards of Titan, black holes gleamed under starlight. Massive carriers, sleek destroyers, and warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen began to take form. Factories on Mars ran day and night, no longer building passenger liners and farming equipment, but weapons of war. On Earth itself, scientists unlocked vaults of forbidden research technologies once shelved because they were too dangerous, too unstable. Now, nothing was off limits. Soldiers trained in silence. New recruits poured into academies, hardened by the images of burning colonies and slain children. Where once they trained for defense, now they learned only offense. Every simulation ended the same way: victory at any cost. Still, humanity spoke not a word. Alien spies who tried to pierce the veil of secrecy never returned. Outposts went dark without explanation. Merchant captains whispered of strange fleets seen at the edges of human space. But when investigated, no evidence remained. The galaxy called it paranoia. They believed the humans had finally withdrawn into isolation. They were wrong. Behind closed doors, Earth's high command drafted a single plan to strike back with such force that the galaxy would never again mistake patience for weakness. Leaders who once pleaded for fairness now burned with fury. Diplomats were recalled, their embassies shuttered. Humanity would no longer ask. It would take weeks turned into months. Suspicion grew in alien courts, but without proof, they dismissed the danger. After all, how could humanity so small, so fragile possibly threaten empires that had ruled the stars for millennia? And then, it happened. Without warning, a fleet emerged from the void. Sleek black ships cut through hyperspace like blades. They carried no banners, no signals of peace, only silence. Their course was direct, unmistakable. They were heading straight for an alien stronghold, one of the most fortified worlds in the Council's domain. At first, the Council mocked the news. A human show of force, they said. A bluff, but deep down, a chill spread through every chamber of power. Because when they saw those ships, they realized something terrifying. Humanity had been silent not because it was broken, but because it was preparing. Cliffhanger ending, and now, the silence was over.